Kuerti is acclaimed by critics and audiences as one of the world's greatest pianists. Born in Vienna, raised in the U.S., he's lived in Toronto since the mid-60s. He tours extensively, performing with major orchestras and conductors in North America and Europe, as well as in Japan, Russia, China, and Australia. His numerous recordings include all the Beethoven concertos and sonatas and the Schubert sonatas. A lifelong social activist, he's raised funds for environmental and community groups via his concerts. Anton Kuerti has received many honors, including the Order of Canada. For over 20 years, he has spent summers on the shores of Georgian Bay near Parry Sound. Anton Kuerti, down to earth.
Well, that still needs some more work for tonight's concert. Well, here we are, and this is Georgian Bay, and everything you see out there that's not obviously attached to this spot of land is an island. I'm so lucky to have been able to come here for 20 years now and enjoy this wonderful scenery. It's just a little hard to sit inside and practice or do other things that one has to do when one would rather enjoy the music of nature and just be a witness here. Well, sailing is such a wonderful sport. It doesn't contaminate, it doesn't make noise, and you really feel that you are at one with nature, and you have to be if you're exploiting the wind and using it to propel you. And it's such a relief from motors. It's very close to flying, flying without a motor. Well, we've reached this gorgeous island. My favorite desert island, except it's not really a desert. And I didn't bring all the music and books that you're supposed to bring to a desert island. Well, at least I've got my shoes so we can go wandering and see some of the gorgeous rocks and plants on this wonderful place. Very lonely place, hardly anybody comes here. I love the rocks on this island. You know, Ontario is a pretty flat place, and I'm really a mountain man myself, but we do have some real beautiful contour here. See these rocks which have all these mineral layers in them. They were metamorphosed about 1 billion years ago. It's amazing to think that all of this was at one time buried as much as 20 kilometers below the surface, and glacial age after glacial age just scraped away all that was above them. Oh, here we have a piece which must have fallen off quite recently, beautifully fresh, and you can see the folds in it. You usually don't think of rock as folding, but under the intense pressure and the liquid state of part of it, it was folded many times. Beautiful. Well, this is obviously tumbled down here at some point, and as a matter of fact, that's what makes this particular surface here quite interesting, because it's not weathered and there's no lichen on it, and so quite recently, probably this chunk over my head, meaning within the last 200,000 years or so, must have fallen down. And so we see these beautiful patterns here. And the pink, the light-colored rock, that's a rock that is melted at a lower temperature, while some of this other rock, like this, didn't melt. So the quartz and the feldspar melted together under this tremendous pressure and heat and made these beautiful lines. We have other examples of this wonderful cliff over here, and you can see on that how very clearly how at one time it was liquid. Amazing to think that this Canadian shield at one time was all liquid. Well, here where I just stepped is a beautiful bit of quartz, a quartz dike. The quartz crystallizes when the molten rock cools and leaves a very, very hard rock. The quartz is used making silicon chips, and it's pretty in itself. Well, here's a beautiful juniper bush with these blue berries. Look so beautiful. They're not blueberries, they are juniper berries, and they make gin from them. Quite nice to suck on too. Well, this is one of those truly exceptional, beautiful Georgian Bay spots. You sit down here and you really feel close to the planet, this billion-year-old Canadian shield, and what the forces of glaciers, wind, ice, and the millennia have wreaked here. Up here at the summit, you almost always have a nice breeze flowing too. It makes me think of certain passages in music, particularly in Beethoven, where you have a great impassioned climax, and then it dies away, becomes tranquil, quiet, and even in the music, you still hear this celestial breeze flowing. Permanence. Maybe the most permanent thing is a work of art, especially music. Beethoven could, in theory, exist forever. The copy, you don't need the manuscript. The copy is as good as the original. Well, we've got a nice crop of apples this year. So hard to get these things growing up here. I've planted a whole bunch of trees, and this one is the only one that's done really quite well. Let's go up and take a look at the pond. It's quite a pretty, quiet place, and sometimes you find some really nice wildlife there. Well, I'm looking for my pond. I can't find it. Actually, it's gone down, the level's gone way down because of this dryness we've had, but here's something interesting. This must have been beaver entrance, a bank beaver. That would have been underwater when they were living here for sure. You're looking at a deer track, and as you see, the deer have apparently expropriated a beaver highway, because the beavers go back and forth along here, dragging their tails and dragging the wood that they've destroyed. Well, I'm going to use the beaver highway too, as long as they've built it, and here's my pond. And even though it's very low now, it's still really important for the environment. There's so many species which need this sort of wetland and swamp. Most people have the instinct, just like Faust, they want to drain the swamps. Swamps need to be drained, but we need to keep swamps, lots of them. And I've seen here turtle, I've seen great blue heron, and of course the beaver. Now the beaver, with great sadness in my heart, they were taking out all my beautiful birch trees. I gave some of the local native people the license to trap a few of them. Of course, if I hadn't, maybe they would have built a dam and I'd still have more of a pond, but I'm quite happy with my marsh. Look, here we have a beautiful plant called cotton grass. Just wonderful. What grows in this neglected marshy area? We have cranberries. I never knew these were here. They're these small ones, not the ones that they use to harvest, but still, look, some of them are not that small. This is a pretty good size here. There's any number of these small ponds and marshes in this general area, and they really make a vital part of the whole Georgian Bay ecosystem. Today, scientists are starting to think that perhaps life itself started in sweetwater ponds like this, not, as most people think, in the ocean. Well, here's one of these gorgeous scenes of the water, the rock, and the twisted white pines, which so much inspired the group of seven, Lauren Harris, Arthur Lismer, A.Y. Jackson, who was particularly beautiful in his scenic paintings, and A.J. Casson, who is, I guess, the one who is most closely associated with this particular area. You can see that the artist is looking not only for a beautiful tree, but for something which has a history, something which is intensely personal. You look at this tree and you can well imagine it grows from a crack in the rock with very little soil. It has withstood the great winter storms and winds, the ice, the snow, and it's just barely winning the struggle for survival. So this tells us something dramatic, moving, intense, and I think all art looks for that, including certainly music. We want something not only beautiful, but special and important to us as human beings. The Appassionata takes a lot of physical energy and strength. You truly have to hit the piano very hard. It is, of course, one of the great virtuoso sonatas. Interesting is that each movement has its climax near the end of the movement, and that's particularly true in the last movement, which Beethoven writes allegro ma non troppo, so not too fast, but just near the end, it suddenly bursts. Here's another one of these truly unforgettable spots in Georgian Bay, which I very much treasure. And it's an interesting one as well, because we have not only nature, but we have also a little bit of the work of man, and they do seem in this case to really blend and live together. I think nature gets the upper hand eventually. What you see here is a spot where a lot of beautiful stone has been quarried and taken away for buildings, flagstones. The stone is so beautifully, smoothly, and evenly layered. This rock splits very easily, and the reason for that is that on this surface you see the black layer, and that's a combination of mica and hornblende. Well, down here you can see on this huge long layer all the glistening, beautiful shining of the mica in the sunlight. Mica, as you probably know, will come apart very easily. It cleaves easily, and that's what makes these rocks easy to work with and have made them such a pleasure for those who've built things with them. And speaking of building things from this beautiful rock, here's some furniture built to last, and well, they used the original pressure-treated material. And if my friend shows up, we can order some wine. be great to snooze here all day, maybe a good book beside you. The sun, the scenery, and the sound of the waves. Well, I'm still trying to decide which one of these pianos I want to use tonight. In a weak moment, Christine, my wife, and I, just after having bought this wonderful property, decided that it would be a splendid place for music in the summer. So I think it was in 1977 or 1978 perhaps that we decided just to put on 3 concerts as a sort of a test balloon. I can't quite grab it. We invited a few of our friends to participate, and we put on these 3 chamber music concerts. They were very successful, very well attended, and there was a lot of enthusiasm from many of the local residents. Well, I have to rely on the tuner. I'll leave him a note. So we put a notice in the last program saying that anybody who would be interested in participating in the committee to put on a regular music festival in the summers in Parry Sound should come to our house on a particular Sunday afternoon. And we were quite amazed that about 35 people showed up. And many of them are still working and active with the festival to this day. Not far from my summer place is this gorgeous park, Killbear Provincial Park, where we have not only the beauty of the rock and the beauty of the scenery, but we have some very interesting wildlife. And right in front of us is a Massasauga rattless snake. This is a venomous snake, and it's endangered. It's threatened in Ontario. This is one of the few places, the eastern shore of Georgian Bay, where there's still a goodly population of them. Chris Parent is a conservation biologist with the Ministry of Natural Resources, and he's doing a great deal of research on the Massasauga rattler. This snake, which he found for us, actually has a radio transmitter implanted in it so that they can study it and locate it. There are a lot of Massasauga rattlers here in the park, and they're really not as dangerous as many people might fear. You see that I'm quite close to it. In the last 40 years, only 2 people have died of bites from the Massasauga rattler. I hope I won't be the 3rd. And in Killbear Park, although they have 250,000 visitors a year, in the last 10 years, not one person has been bitten. And in fact, you're very lucky if you can come across one. People always said that Parry Sound was not the right place for a festival. It was much too far from big population centers, and its cultural level was just too much involved with hockey. But it turned out very well. People come in throngs, and the local people have been so enthusiastic and really done wonders to make the festival work. We chose the small gymnasium in the high school, which has really quite nice acoustics and good sight lines. It does have a lot of heat too. In fact, the heat in that hall in midsummer is legendary. There are so many memories connected with this spot of land. We got this when our older boy was not quite 2 years old. Of course, at that time, if I'd been walking right where I'm walking now, I would be knee-deep in water. The water levels have changed so much. But it's, as you can see, such a safe place for young children to grow up and to enjoy the water and enjoy nature. We've had many wonderful, happy family gatherings here. Family coming from all over North America and even further to celebrate my mother's 80th, 85th and 90th birthdays. We've had lots of great music here connected with the festival and sometimes not connected with the festival. And fabulous after concert parties. Dizzy Gillespie came out after playing at the festival, and he was hot. The festival hall tends to be really, really hot, and he wanted to go swimming, so I felt I'd better go with him. And here was this very large man, and not young anymore, and I was a little worried if he'd be all right and if there's anything I could do if he weren't. Yo-Yo Ma has been down here rehearsing for concerts, and we've really enjoyed being here, and we're looking forward to lots more memories building up. For me, and I think for most artists, it's really important to keep some contact with the land of this planet, and this spot makes a great anchor for that.